So the fall anime season is really come out, and there's quite a bit of anime that I've taken interest to. One of these animes have to be Hinomarusumo, and in the case of writing this video, only 3 episodes have came out for it so far. But again, I want to talk about it because it interests me. I also remember I actually heard about the manga a while back in a video that Super Eye Patch Wolf did. He's really cool, you should go watch him, and sooner or later I want an anime adaptation. Lo and behold, we got one in the fall season this year, and again, I really like it so far, so I'll just do a quick rundown of each episode so far and give my thoughts on each of them at the end, and maybe sprinkle around my own thoughts within the episodes. So again, spoilers for the first 3 episodes. If you don't want to watch this video, just go ahead and watch the first 3 episodes. Since you're an anime fan, you probably know where to find it, but let's just get into this. So let's go into the actual episode, but before, let's talk about the opening. The opening is actually really good in terms of the music. The animation for it's okay, but the music is the main draw here. I really love it, and again, I'm one of the guys who never skips openings, so that's a plus in my book. But now getting to the actual episode, I actually really liked it as an opening. We first meet our protagonist, Hinomaru, and he's a small good boy who needs to be protected, but other than that, he actually starts off saving someone in a bus, or okay, not a bus, but a subway, from a man doing really unspeakable things. But honestly, God, I was actually really glad that I was watching this turn away from people, so at least no one caught me. But again, I actually found it kind of funny how he gets caught from the police and not the actual person, but that's probably just because he was wearing his sumo gear at the time. But, that aside, he actually goes around trying to find the school that his friend wanted him to go to, but he gets lost, because duh, and he actually meets Shinya, which so far is best boy, but we won't talk about that right now. But again, he meets him practicing sumo by himself, and then gets his absolute butt kicked from him, and then later on, he just wants to see the sumo club, and as you can probably guess, it goes to shit. Obviously, no one kills, and then eventually Hino and Yuma actually meet. And again, Yuma is probably somewhat antagonist-like so far, but that's not really a big deal because it gets moved on later. But he gets his ass handed him by Yuma, or at least talk down to him, and then eventually him and Shinya talk. Well, Hino and Shinya talk, and then Hino eventually just leaves. But eventually we find out that somebody, and well, it's pretty easy to see who, but Yuma and his gang has wrecked up Shinya's sumo training place, and then eventually Hino comes back and does the protagonist thing and kicks their butts. There's actually a kind of fight in this episode, but more or less it just sums down to Yuma wailing on Hino for 10 to 15 minutes, and then Hino allowing to fight back, and then he just pushes him out of the ring with one single hit. And honestly, I just liked that part just because it looked visually cool, and it was a nice moment for him, honestly. We get also a little bit of backstory in this episode as well, just for Hino, because it shows that his mom felt really bad about not being able to give him a body suited for wrestling, or okay, not wrestling, but sumo. And I really hope that part continues on and shows more about and his relationship with his parents, because frankly I found that really nice and add some depth to him, at least in the first episode. But obviously I really hope that continues. And honestly, this episode was actually a really nice introduction to the entire world and stuff, so honestly I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5, and yeah, it's really good so far. Now we move on to episode 2. And episode 2 starts off how episode 1 kind of ended, with both Shinya and Hino trying to get students to join the club. But this time they have a plan, and it's food. And they fail because the food sucked and no one really cared about sumo. But then there was this one guy named Chihiro, okay, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he came up, he actually really liked the food, and he basically explained himself saying he wanted to be the best mixed fighter in America or something like that, and he actually gives Hino a ticket because he finds him to be a really interesting guy, because they have somewhat similar goals, where Hino wants to be the best sumo wrestler, and then he just wants to be the best mixed fighter. So he gives him a ticket to come join in the gymnasium, because they were doing sparring matches where he would face other people from other clubs. And obviously, takes up this, and they go and fight. But this actually is pretty interesting, because they actually use two different rule sets. Well, in the case of Chihiro, he actually uses wrestling movesets or like just wrestling rules, versus Hino, who uses just purely sumo rules. Well, in the case of sumo, if you touch the ground, you automatically lose. But in case of wrestling, if you just like get pinned down, you can't move anymore, you win. So, okay, in the case of if you get pinned down, you lose. So that's why it's kind of interesting. Well, like it's two different rule sets trying to go against each other because Hino mostly sumo, Chihiro mostly uses wrestling. So I guess it was kind of cool just to see two different types of fighting styles go against each other. Then eventually Hino wins the match, and then Chihiro joins his team just because he admired his ability as a fighter. And then eventually Yuma joins his team, just Rina, probably because of the same reasons why Chihiro did. And then we actually also get like another member in the case of an orange-haired kid. I can't remember his name, and he's not really properly introduced in this episode. And also, before I forget, we also find out the student body president, aka Rina, is related to Yuma. And I kind of like the dynamic just because they're both kind of hard asses, and I don't know, I find it really fun. I really hope that these two get development together, or like at least get more screen time, because they seem to be really cool together. So that was mostly it for this episode, and honestly, I'd probably rate it 3.5 out of 5 just because the fight was way better in this episode, and honestly, I just liked it a lot better than the first. But actually, one last thing in the episode that I forgot to mention, we also see Hino's friend, and he just straight up tells him that, oh yeah, you guys are going to naturals because I'm going to train you dumbasses. And honestly, this just left me thinking for what's going to happen in the next episode, and I guess that's a good segue into episode 3. Okay, so starting off with episode 3, the gang actually starts off at ER High for some practice fights against, their own team. But before we actually get into the school, we get a little recap from what Hino's friend, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his name at the moment, but, we get a little recap from him, and then we get some backstory into Hino and his friend's relationship. Again, I'm not going to try, I think it's pronounced like, I think I pronounced it earlier, but I think it's like Hihirito or something like that. And then, mostly we get backstory into the relationship, and we see that, absolutely defeated him, like, really easily. But, I guess that's just because of the differences even back then in the strength. Then we also get some practice matches between the two teams. Obviously, everyone loses except for Chihiro. Yeah, Chihiro. And at least he has some, like, experience from wrestling, even though it might not be the biggest difference. Again, we get some more Hino backstory because it shows some people at EA knew him back in the chart as a kid, in the same matches that we saw. And then we actually see Sasuke, and he actually really messed up Hino back then because he kind of broke his arm, and then that led him not to really do sumo anymore, or like at least not face anymore, just because he wouldn't be able to hold back. And then we actually see another fight, Hino versus Shun, and I actually really like this fight. Like, I really like how when he tried to do some of the demon, I think it was like the demon, one of the demon moves didn't work, so he used it in combination. I really like that. And then, of course, we get the big fight in this, Hino versus Sasuke. And frankly, it's cut short, and I really want to see this fight later on because I bet it will be really hype when it actually does happen. Because, of course, someone interjects and gets mad at Sasuke just because of the fact that he wasn't supposed to do this. But, I just really hyped to see this later on. And then eventually the episode starts to end. Kihirito eventually gives him a lecture how he's going to train him, make him stronger, but while also being kind of dumb in what he did earlier in the fight. At least it's got me watching, and I really like this a little bit more than the first episode. I'm comparing a lot to the first just because, it's not really much happened, but again, it's pretty average. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. So overall, I really still do think that you should watch Hinomarusumo. Even though it's a sports anime, and I will admit that's one of the biggest hurdles into like the sports genre, just because it's like, oh, why would I want to watch like sports? Because I know like a lot of anime fans are probably not into that. Me, I honestly, again, I was skeptical at first, but the first one I saw was Hajime no Ippo, and that kind of got me into most sports anime like Baby Steps. I haven't finished watching that, but I'm getting there, and frankly, I moved on to Hinomarusumo just because it's sumo, and I really want to see how it would go. And honestly, so far, I even say that it's got pretty good animations. The characters seem nice so far, and the fights are actually really cool. But one of the things I have to say negatively about it is that it's kind of fast paced. Like a lot of the fights just move on really fast, and gotta admit that kind of sucks considering the fact that like one of the other sports anime I've seen I mentioned a bit earlier was Hajime no Ippo, and those fights can take a while, and just a big difference in the pacing. And again, I think another one that I actually kind of like about sports anime is that how it explains some of the sports beforehand, because obviously as me I don't really know much about sports, so I'm glad that it at least explains some of the rules and stuff like that. But honestly, if you're considering sports anime, might as well give Hinomarusumo a chance just because it's more recent, and again I still think it's pretty good. And honestly, since you're an anime fan, you probably know where to find this stuff. Crunchyroll, maybe it's on Funimation, I'm not sure, but like just you know where to find it. So it's been me. I hope you guys come back later and watch more of my videos, and see you guys later.